Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This has got a lot of things in it. I started this video with some TPUS gay stuff that's just kind of great, unresolved things. And then Milo Yiannopoulos goes out and says that pretty much all these social media right-wing people are gay, which is wonderful. And somehow at the end of this thing, I'm tracking Erika Kirk's snot rag. It's not that I'm proud of. But that's, if you want to see me track Erika Kirk's snot rag, because she has it and she doesn't know what to do with it. So that's coming up. Unless New York Times copyrights this, which is still a possibility, so we'll see. But either way, there's her snot rag there, and she's eventually going to deposit it somewhere. But I'm not going to tell you where that is. Because, spoiler alert. So, with this kind of content, let's get right into it. Okay, it's Sunday, I believe the 7th. Yes, the 7th of December. I just completed my other video. I may track down the interview that Erika Kirk did, and we'll see if I do that. I want to minimize what I cover with that stuff, especially her part, because she's just so abhorrent. But anyways, I was surprised that TPUS Gay put this up. So they came out with their statement that they were going to have this big reveal of how Candace Owens was full of you-know-what, full of boop, and that she was, they invited her on, and then that whole conflict happened. And then they were doing a live show, wherever they do their podcast, and a woman asked them a question. And they hadn't posted anything yet, and this was the first video they posted. And I think they had to because Candace Owens published the video. And really what I want to do is read the comment section. But I want to show you the end of this first. You saw, if you watched my video 2 days ago, or you saw it on Candace Owens or somewhere else, she already covered the first part of this. But this woman asked a question like, why are you guys being so illogical here? And she was a very nice Southern lady. And she was going to ask a follow-up question, and they cut her off. But then they came back with her because they probably realized it was stupid, right? And I think that they're publishing... Well, let's watch this here.
But regardless, it is going to go forward because we have agreed that some response needs to be made. And so that's going to happen when we announced it on December 15th.
I just don't think I'm the only person who has heard some things that truly do not make sense.
Wait, let me go back just a little bit here.
I announced what the time was going to be. Candace, for her part, had said, you name the time, you name the place. That is what we did. As for why it was put out at that time, I would just say I don't think she had any difficulty in finding out what our scheduled time was. It seems everyone found it out quite quickly. And lastly, on the...
So I'm calling this guy the twink, the angry twink. In the gay community, they have bears and twinks. And... which seems like a very insulting name, but I watched a show called Search Party, which is a pretty funny show, and they had a gay character on there. It's kind of a liberal-based show, but it was funny. And then they had a really, it was like the third season, up to the third season was good. The fourth season, the main character gets kidnapped by a twink. They called him a twink, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, doesn't that sound worse than the F word? Right? Like a twink seems kind of even worse. But it's a word they use in the gay community. And this is, again, the other day we were watching Practical Jokers, and they were making fun of one of the guys, Murray, on the show that looks like this guy. And they were calling him a twink, right? He had put fake hair in his chest. It was like season 7 or something. And they were doing a bit. He put fake hair in his chest to make it funny, which it kind of wasn't, and they were mocking him for it, calling him he was a combination of a bear and a twink. And he looks similar. This guy's much more twinky and much more angry, right?
Point of why it's in person, I think it's pretty intuitive that given what is being said, the way this has worked is that it's critical to be in person if you want to be authentic and to be detailed, and that is what we think is a fair request to make if she's going to participate. But regardless, it is going to go forward because we have agreed that some response needs to be made. And so that's going to happen when we announced it on December 15th.
I just don't think I'm the only person who has heard some things.
So they cut off the next part. They went to commercial, and he said, "Hey, we have to go to commercial." So she started asking her questions. So they cut that out, and they've edited this in.
Things that truly do not make sense. And I know that Candace is asking a lot of questions, and she's way out there. But I also know that there are lots of us who are just everyday, normal, average Americans who are fans of yours. We're fans of Charlie's. We're fans of Candace's, and they were friends. And the things that don't make sense, I think so many of us are really just wanting for there to be some kind of logic to the whole thing. And I have asked Candace myself. I mean, I'm one person in all of America, and maybe the world for that matter, who has asked her to please, go ahead and go. Come to your place, whatever you need, so that those of us who by complete happenstance have turned out to be people who listen to both of your podcasts.
Well,
it doesn't make
Gina,
any sense. So
yeah, Gina, sorry, we're coming up on another little break before we welcome back radio here. So, I really appreciate your heart, genuinely, and I hear the sincere request for things that you think don't make sense. I will say a couple of things just before we have to go back to radio here. One is that's why we're doing this this stream on the 15th. We want to address any of this stuff and let everybody know the truth, because much of it is very simple to rebut and to explain. And I would also say that
Okay, so they had a debate format here, right? And Charlie was a master debater, according to them and himself. But they had a debate format, and I don't like debates. I like watching them, but they're just like, I don't want to listen to other people's point of view. Like, I understand their point of view, and like, people want to debate me, and I'm like, that means I have to listen to you, right? There's people who leave comments, and and I already understand most of the people have a very template-like point of view. Right, almost everybody has a left wing or a Christian or an atheist or a liberal or a conservative, and they all say the same things, and they just repeat things other people say, and they repeat talking points. They can't think for themselves, and I have to hear that shit all the time. I know what people think. I know what their traditional ways of thinking are, right? There's not original thinking, and then there's people just crazy that you can't follow. But either way, in this case, this calls for a debate. It calls for Candace to have access to all of her information, all the facts that she says she has or doesn't have, and you guys debate it, right? But you can't do that because, the official story, people don't believe it, and they're not going to believe it anymore after you and Candace debate. And so you have nothing to gain, and you shouldn't have done this thing in the first fucking place, right? Because now this looks shitty. Like, you cut this woman off, you're not really answering her question. And you guys have already done that. Like, you want to do it on a massive level, and you're going to get ratioed in your comment section again. We'll go look at the comments of this in a second. But you're already fucked, right? Because it's not about even anything to do with Candace. This has to do with your credibility. Because there's lots of people who aren't Candace fans that don't believe in the official story. And like this woman was trying to say, she couldn't really spit it out. She doesn't believe all the red plane, blue plane shit with Candace, but she does believe some of it, just like some people believe some of the things, and that's all it takes. They don't have to believe everything that Candace says. They don't have to believe everything that you're being accused of. But if any of the things are true, and if there are any holes in the official story, and you're already convicting a guy who clearly is just a patsy, and this doesn't go just back to you guys. I mean, this goes back to all the way back to when they started using these patsies, and we don't believe in the patsy fucking narrative. It's stupid for them to roll out a patsy narrative because the majority of us don't believe it unless they want to provoke us, unless they want to create controversy. Whatever reason they're doing the patsy narrative, if they think people are going to buy it, they're full of shit. You got to realize that that's not going to roll anymore. And you guys have those types of viewers who don't believe in the patsy narrative, don't believe in this fucking story, and they're never going to believe it. And as long as you keep on trying to jam it down their throats and tell everybody, to trust you. The guy Jimmy Dore, a video came up from him, and he had a couple of the TPUS gay people on. And they were both saying that it's a financial organization and they make money. And one woman who said she didn't like Candace Owens said, by the end of her time working there, she worked with donors. She was telling donors not to give them any more money because it's just a fucking, they're just glomming donor money and misusing it, and everybody kind of over there knows it because they obviously do, right? And so that was when Charlie Kirk was there. So, this company is a fucking bullshit company. It's like a money laundering scheme, and they're getting people to donate their hard-earned money for things that they're never going to deliver on and for things they don't even believe because they're not those people.
We want to be cognizant all the time, and we're aware of this. We're in a different situation because there is an ongoing investigation. There's a trial.
The fucking doesn't mean shit. Everyone else is talking about it. Like, you can talk about it too. You're not involved, right? You weren't even there. You're not a witness. They'll fucking hide behind the investigation. It didn't stop your fucking that bitch from forgiving a guy that hasn't been convicted yet. I forgive that young man. I forgive him. You fucking bullshit, weird shit. Stop it. Fucking stop it. Like, we can see through. You fucking think everyone's retarded?
Be more careful than other voices out there what we say. And there's always the issue of tainting a potential jury pool.
Oh, my God. Just stop hiding behind the fucking jury. You don't think that when Trump got up and said the guy deserved the death penalty at your event, and the fucking, that C-word fucking widow got up there and said she forgives the guy, that wasn't tainting the jury pile for the jury pool? And when fucking Kash Patel went on Megyn fucking Kelly and says, yeah, we got the guy, that's him, that everybody says everyone who's looked at the evidence. The other thing is there are lots of people that may or may not like Candace Owens and may or may, not be whatever, fans of your guys. There are people who work with with 30-06s and, whatever the caliber bullets they're saying are being used here. And they say that his head would be obliterated by that shot. The people who use, that shoot those kind of weapons, right? And, there's videos out there what a 30-06 does to, something similar to Charlie Kirk's head and neck. And you fucking come out here and said that he stopped the bullet because he was a bullet that would have killed two mooses, but somehow he had bone density that stopped a bullet that would have exploded his fucking head like a fucking water balloon. Like, that's what people are saying. It would have done, JFK kind of damage, where his brains would have been splattered all over the fucking stage. It would have obliterated him. And so, like that, and that, the autopsy, according to Candace Owens, they're already saying that it wasn't a 30-06. But you came out here and lied about it, saying that he was a superhuman person that stopped the bullet from hitting other people, when it wasn't even the true. That story's already folded. And people who work with, who have shot animals with that type of a caliber bullet know what happens and know what would have happened. I've had comments about that. And so, like, that shit alone, right? And the fact that, these guys all look gay, right? And all that Tyler Boyer shit. So let's go to the comment section. 3,657 comments on a video that got 76,000 views. Their normal video gets like 5,000 views. I really miss Charlie. When you deliberately distort and selectively present the truth, you lie. Again, that's at you, motherfuckers. Blink, blink. Tell me you're a liar without telling me you're a liar. Pride goes before destruction and haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Feels like Charlie's channel got hijacked. We miss you, Charlie. I miss Charlie and his bold, unwavering determination to have difficult and awkward discussions. Make it happen, TPUS gay. Charlie, you guys are all going to be calling it TPUS gay for long, if you're not already. Charlie is forever in our hearts. I love India. To all the people, and peace upon everyone. The world has better place with Charlie Kirk. Father sees it all. Very simple to explain, yet doesn't explain shit. That's what he said. Charlie lived for truth and to speak the truth, not to stay quiet. So shady. We all see straight through you all. Feels weird This being posted on Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel. Absolutely ludicrous. Charlie was holding back a dam of evil, wasn't he? I just miss Charlie. Charlie was a piece of shit, but these people don't know. A shackled up piece of shit. Never seen two guys look more uncomfortable. Love the irony of arguing against a virtual live stream in the middle of a virtual live stream. TPUS gay is tanked without Charlie. It's not authentic to live stream while Andrew is live streaming. And, let God arise and his enemies be scattered. What is happening? The way you titled this, Everything You Needed to Know, is coming across as trolling. Gina, whoever you are, I want to know I found you so brave. I hear your voice start to shake, but remained respectful and got through it, even though the implications of your question should cause TPUSA shame. You showed a lot of integrity. I wish you would have been treated with half as much dignity as you treated them. Instead, they implied that everyone but you could intuit why their demands had to be so unreasonable and delivered in such an impossible way. But you aren't alone. They showed contempt for the entire audience, and they went to commercial. Boy, do they think their viewers are stupid. But not so. They can risk actually hosting Candace and having her be heard by their supporters. Their audience jaws drop when they listen to Candace not taken out of context, and they turn on TPUS gay faster than Andrew can cut to a commercial. So you see, we really can intuit it was an offer in appearance only. And so, this is them getting fucking slammed again in their comment section. We really miss Charlie and need answers on what really happened to him. Please make sure to play the clips of Candace Owens' allegations instead of just quoting her. People need to hear and be reminded of what she said. You are literally cut her off to go to break and then just kept talking the way you saw things, never actually addressing what she said or confirming if you understood or if she even understands what you said. Why do you look so uncomfortable? Let her appear virtually if you want to have an honest conversation. So this is going to go on forever, right? Because they fucking can't do that. And the reason they had to post this is, like I said, Candace already posted it. Otherwise, they would try to hide this. It's so fucked. I mean, they're so fucked, and but again, they just got $80 million of post-Charlie money, and they have, I mean, they're done getting donations, and their merch sales are going to dry up, and they're going to have to make some financial decisions. But as long as they're being bankrolled by Israel, and we don't know how long that's going to go on, or whatever else is here. But, Jesus fucking Christ. Appears to be that TPOC has zero problem with allowing guests and even co-hosts to appear virtually. I mean, it's just, you think you can say things and people are going to change their minds, and you're incompetent and have no idea how social media and the internet work, right? Like, you are not liked, you're not trusted, you come across as shady, you're not, people don't look at you as being the voice of Charlie. And then, you're like, somehow you guys are Charlie continuing his fucking whatever bullshit he was doing. That's not how people see you or see the organization. So, like, this is, you've lost your people. You're not getting them back. And you couldn't even if you tried, because you're an angry twink. You're a couple of angry twinks, right? Like, both of them. They're both obnoxious, condescending, and, they don't have the kind of personalities. You either have to be honest and good, or you got to have a winning personality, right? You either have to bring something to the table that people will overlook your shitty personality. I can speak from personal experience. Like, you either have to be warm and loving and, kind and, I mean, you have to be social. You have to be likable. You guys are none of those things, and you don't tell the truth. Like, you have nothing to offer. You're covering shit up. Erika's completely fake and unlikable. You guys got nothing. Like, you have nobody who could carry a show on their own. You have nobody who could win an audience on their own. Nobody that people would want to watch. And so, like, you're just coattail riders. And now you have, like, nothing there, and you don't have anybody to replace Charlie, and your whole organization is going up in flames. And, keep on doing it, because I'm enjoying it, and so are so many other people. Okay, so there's this guy Milo Yapalalopolis. I don't even know. I haven't heard his name pronounced correctly. I've seen it in print, and he's a gay Republican and an openly one, and seems to be much more likable than all these closeted ones. I don't know very much about him, but he went on Tim Pool, and here's the first thing. I don't know if these is two separate. I don't know if this is the same one. I'm just whatever. It's Monday morning, and I'm dealing with some stuff that's not whatever. Not really, it's a extended family stuff. But here,
And that's why we should actually get to the button.
we don't
I'm
know- we
totally
don't-
fine with asking questions.
I
but
do
at
not-
this point, I feel like Candace is just making up stories out of the
I'm,
blue.
I'm not saying.
I think it's
I'm
just
not.
she's
I'm not
pulling it
going to
from
say
cloth,
because
Milo.
I'm not going to say because I don't know that Candace has arrived at the right answer today, or that she will do in a month. But I can tell you
She's
this.
not even trying. That's the issue that I
That
have.
I don't agree with. Look, Candace is the one person in public life, the one, because it was not Erika, who has exhibited genuine heartbreak and grief.
what is going on here? Anyways, we'll go back to this.
Okay, hold on. Time
over
out.
the death of Charlie Kirk. I can't tell you another person-
cannot be the judge of that. That is not fair to Erika.
I did appoint myself
She
the judge of
lost-
it, and everybody agrees.
But
No,
you
I don't.
can't be the judge of that.
Everybody agrees. Still, a lot of people agree. You can't be the judge of that. Come on, guy.
You can't talk
let's-
about
let-
grieving.
let-
No,
let the
Milo,
people
you're
judge.
wrong.
Let
I
the
love
people
you.
judge.
No, but
Let
you're
the people
judging.
judge, and they have
judging
a
a widow's
question.
girl.
Okay, so fuck you guys. Like that's just already. Like so, let me find the other pieces. But let's go back a little bit to that mess that's in front of him. Jesus Christ, see, he's got liquid death here and some other shit, right? Maybe a couple fucking tampons. So all right. Let's go to the other thing here. Okay, so I'm trying to find this. He said that somewhere in this he says that both Charlie Kirk and I'm not sure. This is whatever I've heard, but I'm trying to find it here. Charlie Kirk and Candace's husband are gay, which would track, right? And I'm not saying it's true, but gay dudes often think every other dude is gay, right? So, or he's just looking for whatever. He's just talking shit. But I love it when something falls apart, right? So this is all on Trump, right? There's a coalition of people who believed in Trump, just like a coalition of people who believed in Biden, or they just hated Trump so much they wanted to get Trump out. But you have the liberals who are very, liberals are very antagonistic, and so are the Republicans, in different ways with each other. They're very competitive, and politicians and people in the political life and people who are, clout chasers like all these fucking pieces of shit. They're very contentious. And I say this with people in the truth community. That's one of the reasons why there's no solution. I mean, there is no solution anyway, but there wouldn't be because people in the truth community can't agree on shit, right? There's used to be these truther wars, and there probably still are. And they fight over, like, fucking lame-ass points of things that have no fucking bearing or whatever. There's no reason to get upset by any of this because we can't stop it. You can just endure it, right? Like the collapse of the system and all the rest of it. But people, they get into little ego battles and things. And I love it when it happens, so it's very entertaining. The drama, I can't take too much of the drama. But, when it falls apart like it is now, Tim Pool keeps on crying about the midterms. Like, you're fucked to the midterms because Trump fucked you. Like, Trump, you admit that Trump's a piece of shit, and then you guys all, then your whole existence is worthless because you guys all came together to, and the people around Trump, I talked about this with Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth had 4 MAGA guys in there, and they went at each other. And they, some guys were outing stuff, and they were putting information out there to reporters, and he had to like demote 3 of them and fire 1 of them. And these were all MAGA people. These weren't, former Biden people. Like they were all very shitty, and they came together for this, singular act, to get Trump elected. Just like with the LGBTQ, these groups are completely different. The L's and the G's, the gay men and the lesbians are completely different, have different, they don't hang out, right? They don't have a lesbian and gay bar. They have a lesbian bar and a gay dudes bar, right? They don't, and transgender people and lesbians are completely at war, right? Because it's biological men who are getting like Women of the Year awards and competing in sports, right? So, these groups come together and they don't really, they have different agendas and the people themselves don't get along. And, it just shows you, like, this is what I talk about. Like, even religion and spiritual organizations, this happens. There used to be all these fucking arguments of what to do. And, you see this stuff that I saw when the Sajmark meditation. Like, people just, their egos always get in the way, right? So, this thing, I don't know.
I'm not saying it's hidden. I'm not saying he's still alive somewhere. I don't know. But his body hasn't been buried. Did they lose it? It happens.
It happens. Do you think there's a possibility that Charlie is alive?
I think it's vanishingly slight. I think it's probably the most.
So you even give it a slight?
Of course, it's possible. And the behavior of some of the Turning Point people makes me wonder. I tweeted today for the first time ever. I didn't name him, but just thinking aloud. Do you think he's still alive?
But you think there's a possibility they faked his death?
Yes.
But then why wouldn't Candace say something more to that degree?
It's probably the most difficult thing to prove.
And so why won't Candace call out Erika?
She has. She has. She not only does she, as she mentioned, she's done it. Candace is the ultimate master of the tease, right? Now you will say.
Oh, so you're agreeing with me now?
You will say no. You will say that tease is entirely dishonest, fraudulent, and manipulative, and wicked. I think she just is the master storyteller. The truth perhaps is in the middle.
Agreed.
Maybe the truth is in the middle.
We agree.
But
she's telling stories.
Stories is a news term.
And I know about storytelling.
Stories is a news term, and that's the manner in which I meant it.
So when Ben Shapiro said that she implied Erika killed Charlie, was he wrong?
I think at that time she had not done so. I think later there were comments that I...
Okay, so I somehow missed the thing I want to show you. But, let me see if I can find the part where he says they're both gay. Let's get out of this fucking thing. But, these guys, they're starting to eat each other. Like, they're cannibalizing each other. Tim Pool's like crying, oh, we're going to lose the midterms. Yeah, like, it's fucking way worse than that, bro. You're going to lose everything. This thing's fucking, America's going tits up. Like, everybody is out for themselves. So, you get people to come together in teams and groups. You see this with teams and former teammates. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen don't talk to each other, right? People are highly competitive. And, they're not, like, people just think about themselves, right? We live in a selfish society. And, people don't know how to, put other people in front of them. There's this movie I used to watch as a kid. It was called Hans Brinker. I don't know what the name is, but the main character was this guy, Hans Brinker. And he and this guy, his friend, they have these frozen rivers. I knew this was in Ottawa. They had this frozen river, like a river that just freezes in the winter, like a river going through fucking town. And they had a skating competition, and there was some kind of prize that both this guy and his friend wanted. And Hans Brinker's and his friends, both their laces got cut. They couldn't lace one of their skates, so Hans Brinker gave his lace to his friend so his friend could win. Like this kind of thing, right? That shit just doesn't exist. It's a beautiful idea, and it was more prevalent, it was more possible back when I was a kid, and certainly at the time period that this thing was supposed to take place. But people just don't do shit like that, right? People don't sacrifice for other people, don't put other people in front of themselves. Everybody's clout chasing, everybody's look at me. And so, this is where these things implode. And it's imploding because their turning point isn't what they pretend to be. It has nothing to do with God. Zero God at Turning Point. They don't, whatever. They use God as a manipulative tool to convince Christians that they're one of them. Like there's bad Christians and there's good Christians and there's Christians who actually have some kind of relationship with Jesus. And they read the Bible and they have a relationship with God. And then there's, another 95%, and so who are just, it's just what they do. It's their social system and they gossip at church and they They don't really think about God. They don't pray. They don't read the Bible. But they use Christianity as a weapon to tell other people they're going to hell, right? And so, okay, so here's the part where I think this is where he calls Charlie Kirk gay.
Implied Erika killed Charlie. Was he wrong?
I think at that time she had not done so. I think later there were comments that I would have to check the chronology, but I think that later there were comments where I'm like, And I read today, and I did not check it out because I'm always 2 or 3 days late catching up her show, although I do watch her religiously. That's the queen. I'm always
Jesus Christ.
a couple of days behind watching on the show because I've got stuff going on. But somebody tweeted today that Candace said that she believed that they were about to get a divorce. I think he was gay, I think he was gay. And
Come on,
You know that
you do know that I've criticized.
What?
Like I'm sorry, Tim, but like, why would you even go there? Like to say,
This guy seems kind of gay, doesn't he? See, like, and I just did a video yesterday, and I revisited the dumbest person in this media, which is Don Lemons, the most clueless, if you guys watch that video. And I was saying how, Don Lemons is an openly gay dude, and he's less gay acting than these guys. I mean, if you just heard Don Lemons and you saw some of the guy TPUS gay, and you'd say, well, which one of these people is gay? Rank the gayness, right? Like rank, what you consider gay behavior, right? Feminine, because there's guys who are just like masculine, tough guys who are gay. They're not, you would never know, right? And there's, whatever. And again, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't fucking care. I literally don't care about any of this stuff. Like, I don't want to know about people's personal lives and their whatever it is. I mean, when it's stuff like this, yeah. Because it's hypocritical, right? When you're anti-gay and your audience is anti-gay, or whatever they are, it's, Christians, they have, negative views of gay people, and then you have a whole organization that's supposed to be Christian and right-wing, and all the guys are gay, DPUS gay. It's, it's funny as fuck, and it's, but other than that, I don't care, right?
say something like
Oh,
that.
I'll tell you what.
No, the man's dead. You're calling now. You think he's
that's
gay.
when
They were
that's when
getting a
people
divorce.
can-
Well, why this guy, right? Why this guy? Like, is this like a whole generational thing? It's just these guys just don't have any fucking testosterone, like some kind of testosterone suppressor has been put in the water, and all these guys, these these Republicans. I mean, what's happening, right?
Well, that's when people can tell the truth.
I know. I disagree.
That's when
I
people can tell
think
the truth
this is.
because let me tell you why. Okay, and if you want to read in a vindictive crusade on my part for everything I've just said, you are entitled to do so, and so are the viewers. But I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what Charlie Cook did to me. Charlie was a very brilliant, very, very brilliant organizer, fundraiser, networker. Those three things, phenomenal. Probably the best in the business, maybe. Certainly one of the top 2, 3. Amazing at those things. But he was also very ruthless. He was a very ruthless person who spent a long time excising and excommunicating all of the most interesting people in politics from the right wing. He did it for a decade. Everybody knows it. Nobody has said it because it's not polite in the aftermath of his death.
Charlie gave a platform.
Let me finish. He gave a platform.
Boom, fucking. This guy came out of nowhere.
To lily-livered, centrist, weak frauds, faggots, and prostitutes.
Fuck. He's going for it. This is great.
Drag queens. What he also did at that same time, and anybody in power, what he also did at that same time was systematically extinguish the light of anybody who could not be controlled. And I'm one of them, and I'm going to tell you what happened. When you hear rumors about sexual impropriety about me now, most people are like, yeah, probably true. There's a reason for that. Charlie. When I was at the height of my fame, the height of my popularity, Charlie made up a rumor that I was having sex with children on campuses, underage boys on college campuses, and I was selling them drugs. And he did that because there was no other way they could
Kaboom! Fucking. Oh, he's giving it to Charlie here. Fucking giving it to dead Charlie.
He's a monopoly on college campuses because I was just so totally dominant. And they didn't have anybody in the influencer line because at that time, Charlie was a really shitty speaker. He got a lot better towards the end. I think he got a lot better man towards the end, honestly. I think having kids really changed him, if I'm honest. But at that time, very ruthless person. And they had nobody that could go up against me. He made up that lie. he forced every Turning Point chapter, and everybody has heard 20 instances where Turning Point has cancelled somebody. Everybody knows 20 times it's happened, all right? Happened to Ashley Sinclair, for God's sake. It happened to most of us, okay? Most of us. You have walked a very fine line, and because of the broadness and because of the mission that you're on, you've escaped the wrath of Turning Point. But if
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Well, oh, no.
They disinvited us.
Little recently. Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's the DNA of the organization. That's what it is. That's what it does. It is a thermostat. A thermostat is a control device.
Okay, so we get the idea. Let me see if there's the gay parts coming up here. So he just said that lie, I skipped a little bit here.
Fed into the lie they told later, or the mischievous or malicious edit of whatever, and started what became my excision from public life. It cost me hundreds of millions of dollars.
Have you heard what I've said?
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Have you heard what I've said about Turning Point?
Yes, they've come for you now too.
No. Hold on.
Well, just a moment ago, but
Specifically.
I don't recall your whole.
And I've done
commentary
this
on them. No,
it's probably appeared in Axios and the Washington Post and maybe the Daily Mail.
Okay, so, Turning Points is what I've said it was since the beginning. I looked at Charlie Kirk and I said, and he was talking about Israel, and he was saying Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent. That's my first words I heard out of Charlie Kirk's mouth. I think my wife sent me a tweet because she didn't know who he was either. And I said, he's a piece of shit. And she's like, well, he's saying some things here. And I'm like, well, yeah. So I don't care what people agree with me or not. I don't care the words that people say. Anybody can fucking fake shit or act or even mean it at that particular time. But I knew he was a piece of shit, right? Whether he's gay or not, that's a possibility. Certainly, it seems like all the people that work there are. That guy, Tyler Boyer, there's all these rumors about him and interns, and he hired everybody. So Erika Kirk is fake as fuck. And it's always been a piece of shit organization. This guy said he didn't go after him. Milo did. Because, the whole thing with, he was useful and he was good for Trump, right? But, this is the MAGA falling apart, which is great. Because it should fall apart because the real thing doesn't go through this, right? I shouldn't say that because, real movements get compromised. But MAGA was never true because Trump is a fake fuck. The MAGA people are all dumb cubies. The majority of them, or the most passionate ones, right-wing dopes who, are just so hateful towards liberals they can't see the right, left, right paradigm. And then all these people are posturing and all these whatever. And they cannibalize each other. Just like Trump did with the Republican Party and called them all rhinos. Just like he did with Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody who crosses them. And, does that make America great? No, because he's a piece of shit. They're all pieces of shit. And there's no alternative because the liberals are, just as bad or worse or, whatever. I mean, different, but just as bad. And so this is what I've been talking about for years because it's just what it is. Because it's a system with people like this at the top, middle, bottom, and selfish people across the board, and a selfish system is a cancer on this world with selfish people in it, which are cancers on the world and each other. I mean, cancer is just the best, word to describe what we have here. So here he's talking about Alex and Jack, and he says everybody's in conservative media is gay. Now, the people that I have thought were gay, and again, they're effeminate. These are guys who you might think are gay if you met them, right? There are people who are not gay that you might think they're gay, right? Or whatever it is. But, what's that fucking guy's name? He dresses up like women all the time. Whatever his name. You guys know the guy I think I'm talking. He had a fight with his wife and he seemed so gay and she recorded on, with her doorbell cam. Remember? That guy, whatever. I'll think of his name later. Most of the guys on Turning Point, including Charlie Kirk possibly. I mean, Charlie Kirk is more gay by association of what's going on there. But this guy's saying he is. Then he says he's got, well, let's listen to him here.
Jack does it. Jack does it behind closed doors and is a very effective operator, networker, and a journalist as a result of it.
What about Alex?
And he does it. I just wish Alex would tell the truth about his sexuality. But you get.
Is this Alex here? I mean, I immediately thought this guy was gay, right?
There's something about.
You gotta stop saying that.
Bad. Well, we haven't got.
You gotta stop saying that.
Everybody is not gay just because
in conservative media, yes, they are.
No, stop.
In conservative media, yes, they are. Like that's the fucked up thing here, right? So this guy is bringing it. They got a fucking rooster.
They are.
Strangely, a lot of them are, though.
No, they are.
but
It's just Tim Pool said just a lot of them are strangely.
ones who are out
Look who's
about
talking.
it. I'm
Look who's
gay.
talking.
I've never said I'm not gay.
See, this guy's gay. He's admitting he is. There's two gay guys. So this panel is 50% gay, and Milo's saying the other guy is also gay. Alex, I don't know who that is.
Is talking. Listen, one of the most distinctive
No,
characteristics.
I have a gift for you. Here.
I'm not.
You need this back. You need this. You need this back.
And I'm giving you this.
You need this back here.
No, I'm not.
Take it.
I'm not
Look,
accepting-
Milo needs this back because it's his reality. He just. Milo,
you know-
I love you.
I love you.
I want to get back to what you were saying.
I love you, but we're gonna fall out if you carry on like that.
You're still a queen. I don't care how
I wanna
much
hear
you
what
say
Milo
you're
was saying.
straight.
There is one of the most distinctive things about the right wing in this country is its homosexual overtones. Benny Johnson posts pictures of his children every 2 days. It's weird, and everybody knows what went on with Benny Johnson in those lobbies and in those hotel rooms at SAS. Everybody knows.
I don't. No.
I don't know what you're.
So I was searching for something on Twitter about this. Was it this? And no, it was the Chicago Bears coach. There was some hot dog. There was hot dog. There was a hot dog place in Chicago that was going to give free hot dogs if the coach gives these fired up after they win the game. You know, these pep talks. You know, these victory speeches, and like he's like really pumped up. And they said if he took off his shirt, they would give everyone in Chicago free hot dogs. And so I pulled up YouTube on our TV and I searched Ben Johnson. Is it Johnson? Whatever his name is. And Benny Johnson came up. And my wife goes, "So who's that gay dude?" So that was just yesterday.
Talking about
Men, younger men, not underage. At least I don't know that. His
Okay,
wife,
wait.
his wife was crying, drunk in the lobby, 3 sasses in a row about how her husband was upstairs with boys.
Okay, boom. So that's Benny Johnson, who seems gay as fuck. And I think I pointed that out that one time he was saying something about something. You know, he's on Twitter all the time. And so, how fucked up it is that these guys are all against, trans sports and all that shit. And they're definitely anti-gay in whatever capacity. And they're all gay. Like, that most of the Republican media, the MAGA people are gay, right? And of course, there's rumors now about Trump and Clinton and all that shit. Like it's all possible. And there was these guys getting caught with all those boys from Boys Town, the Franklin scandal, and that one guy, he was a gay reporter. He was some missing kid from that show, America's Most Wanted, or whatever it is. That guy that looks for missing children, and this kid was a famous missing child, and he ended up being like one of those beefcake guys in some fucking, he had like a gay porn site, and then he was asking George Bush questions like he was a reporter. They put in like a shill reporter. I talked about that guy. Like it's just runs rampant in the Christian, many of these pastors get caught being like either pedos or gay. I mean, just so fucked up, right? When they say they're against something, that's why I say words don't matter. What kind of person are you? What kind of spiritual condition do you have? You can read people's spiritual conditions, and you can know everything about them, no matter what they say, at least like their tendencies and who they are. It's something that people can develop, and it's some people are more talented in that area than others, but it's just right fucking there. Like I knew Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit, and everything that Milo says tracks with what TPUS gay is now. And they're like, a bunch of piranhas all going for their bits of the piece of the pie, pretending that they're grieving. And they're all trying to, glom onto what's left of TPUS gay. And then his fucking weird wife, right? Okay, so there was no explicit claim, according to Gemini, which I searched for. This guy's named George Farmer. And the fat gay dude that was on that show is George Santos. I don't think that's the same one that politician. I don't know who that guy is. But I was told, and I'm not sure, maybe it was my wife, that that Milo had said Candace's husband was gay. The problem here is, from Idiocracy, where anybody who can make a coherent sentence and talks with like some level of education is called gay, right? In Idiocracy, right? If you've seen that. And so rich elitist British people always sound a little bit gay, right? They just do because, the men, I mean, obviously. And so
15, I had begun the conversion experience that I then went through for the next 5 years to Catholicism, which
I thought it was gay conversion therapy.
culminated in me converting when I was at Oxford.
Let's slow this part down because this is pretty big, obviously, especially as, like I said, someone raised Anglican. So you're at Oxford, you're studying theology. What moved you as an evangelical to the Catholic faith, which I imagine you were raised with a different understanding, a different perspective? Evangelicals do tend to hold a lot of, I would say, strong feelings against the Catholic faith, both here and abroad.
The whore of Babylon. No, that is some evangelicals would say that, but it.
You might think he's gay. I mean, he's definitely kind of effeminate. They seem weird as a couple. I mean, this whole thing's a mess, right? The most believable person is Milo in this thing because he's saying things that these other people won't say, and they all know it's true. Like, they know Turning Point fucking isn't what they claim to be. It's a fucking, it's a very selfish. I mean, what they're doing is taking money from, donors and people who it's same thing with the, Trump pretending to be a Republican when he's not, right? I mean, this is how all this shit is. So, and Milo's saying all the things that we know to be true. And of course, he's been canceled or whatever he did. He said he lost hundreds of millions of dollars because Charlie Kirk, lied about him. That led to another lie that, outed him as some perv and whatever. So he's got, whatever feelings about all that shit, right? But they're all fucked. Like, they're all greedy. They're all selfish. Everybody's look at me. And a lot of these dudes are gay. And they're right-wing Republican Christian people. And this guy,
Yes, of course. I mean, I was brought up in a home where I think it was viewed with suspicion at best.
If you substitute the word gay for Catholic, right? That he went through gay conversion therapy and not Catholic conversion, and that that his family was suspicious of his homosexuality, right? But he's very reserved, and I mean, Candace is very emotional and very expressive and filled with drama.
Although, to give my parents credit where it was due, they had always basically said that it was the personal relationship with Jesus which mattered more than anything else. And so, my dad has frequent examples of Catholics he had spoken to who he definitely knew had personal relationships with Jesus. But generally speaking, the Catholic Church was...
Okay, so, let's move on. But it's clearly that all these guys are, you think about the kind of rough, sort of, I mean, not all Republicans are like this. Some of them are wealthy. Some of them are wealthy, educated, and sophisticated. But the majority of, men are like, guys who go to NASCAR and, like football, ex-military, are into guns and hunting and, conservative people, conservative Christians, and the wife being submissive to her husband, this kind of Christian. And these guys are not like that at all. Like, Candace dominates this guy because he has no energy. He's got no pulse. Like, I mean, he's, I can't imagine she submits to him like she might say she does. But you can see the way that she is. She's like a pit bull. This guy is, very kind of wimpy and whatever he is. So, I mean, it's just a fucking, it's the opposite. The people who are in Republican media, as Milo said, are, they seem gay, like most of them, all of them, like to some extent. And so, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's just, something I've noticed over the years, and I had no idea it was this pervasive. DPUSK is like a real thing, right? And it's not because, I mean, it's more about being like more effeminate, right? I mean, it looks like these guys are all very effeminate in the way that they, you don't get masculine testosterone type of energy. Like there's no, you can just see it. And so, which is hilarious. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing here. So that, I just looked it up. That is that guy, George Santos. I barely covered that. I think that guy was a Republican congressman or Democrat. I don't know what, from New York, from New York State. And he showed that he was dressed up as a drag queen. He had all these, he got expelled. They kicked him out. They fired him from Congress. And now he's on Tim Pool's show debating Milo Yiannopoulos. Okay, so we're not going to watch very much of this, and I'll go through it when I fucking can, when I have some time to like put up my tolerance for this horrible woman. But she's on this New York Times Deal Book Summit, so I assume she's pitching her husband's, his dead book about whatever the fuck it was, that he's putting out there about the Sabbath. I don't know why she'd be doing it on fucking... I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what deal book means. But this guy said... They got the Kleenexes right here, which she's not using as much here, as far as I can tell. I went through it. At some point, she does dab her eyes, I think. Like she's... but she's kind of have to move away from that. But watch what this guy says here.
Most respectful conversations that you could imagine about so many different topics. And we happened to text the weekend before he was killed. And I remember the day he was killed like it was yesterday, like you did. And
like you you remember it, right? Like, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was only 2 months ago, bro. I fucking remember it. I don't like, I don't like the guy. I didn't know him, and fucking, I remember the day, like, fuck.
I was devastated. You were devastated. I think so many parts of this country were devastated.
You don't look like you're devastated, and, she was never showing devastation.
And I've been thinking a lot about the role that he played for a certain group of people in this country, a role about how to interact about different topics. And there's a lot of controversial things that he said and did. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to talk to you about all of this and about how...
Andrew Ross Sorkin. What do you think, what nationality do you think this guy is?
In many ways, we can potentially even consider bringing the country together, if you can imagine that.
TPS, what do you mean? The MAGA movement's falling apart. I got one more thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I sat and watched the funeral by video.
Jesus Christ. All right, let's see. Why don't you give her a chance to talk?
Internalize things and how you were able to articulate them to Charlie for that moment, for him to then be able to think about certain things a little differently, but prepare him also for those campus visits so that he could...
She's talking about how great this guy was for Charlie. The way she says that to everybody, except for Candace Owens. All right, so she's got giant... Look at the size of those mitts. Look at those giant fucking Caitlyn Jenner hands she has. All right. I don't know if I'm going to do the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing now. She went on 60 Minutes. Well, let's just watch one little piece that I saw here. Okay, so I'm going to revisit this thing tomorrow, I believe. This video is going up Tuesday, and so the next video won't be coming up till Thursday, so I'm going to skip Wednesday. So, and I want to do some comments if there's some comments. If there's not, I won't do them. We'll see.
Tonight, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is revealing much more about her public break with President Trump. She told 60 Minutes that her Republican colleagues mocked Trump behind his back, and she revealed this about the death threat she's been receiving ever since their falling out. Watch.
The subject line for the direct death threats on my son was his words, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Those
So
are death
you
threats directly fueled by President Trump. I told him, I told J.D. Vance, I told them all, sent those directly to them.
Response?
J.D. Vance replied back to me, we'll look into it. I got response back from President Trump that I will keep private, but it wasn't very nice.
Give us a hint.
Fuck that. So Trump is imploding because he couldn't deliver on his promises. The fucking tariffs are a disaster. His immigration policies are fucking illegal. He's getting us in one war after another. He gave Israel everything that he wanted. He's failed every possible way. And we have hyperinflation that's still being kept below what it should be. And he's a lying piece of shit that's a grifter and a fucking scumbag, which, I've always known. I can say that about every politician and be right without, because you can't be a good person and be in politics. It eats you. It eats your fucking soul, right? It's soul eating fucking. Washington D.C. is a soul eating town for this kind of stuff. So you can't be involved in this at any level, and you have to make deals with the devil to get anything done, and you have to compromise your morals because politics there's nothing there. There's no God in it, right? I mean, as much as there's God in everything, I mean, you can't exist without God, but it's so covered with grossness that you can't find it. You can't find the divinity in D.C. or these political places. But anyways, I'll come back to this at the beginning of my next video or some point in the next video. I want to revisit maybe some Don Lemons because that was pretty funny the other day. And I'll look in a little bit more of the interview. It's just so hard for me to watch that woman. I just need to find something worse. I have to search through it without having to watch the 30-minute interview with her and the guy's obnoxious too. So, and you don't want to watch it either because she sucks. I mean, it's hard for you to watch probably as well because, that shows you everything you need to know about Erika Kirk. Nobody wants to watch her. She's unwatchable. As are all those, twinks and shit over at the DP US Gay. And we now know, which I have suspected. The guy's Steven Crowder, the guy I was talking about. If these guys aren't gay, they seem gay, right? In what traditional behavior that you would assume, like things that would get your gaydar up, right? It seems like all these guys are, whatever their sexual orientation is about being like not the way Republican men are supposed to act, like and present themselves. Like you wouldn't think these guys, if you just met them and you didn't hear their political views, you wouldn't think of them as Republicans. At very least, you think of them as liberal, effeminate metrosexuals. Anyways, let's check out the comments here. Okay, so we're just going to do little bits of Erika. Erika, her gaudy jewelry. I'm just going to go through this myself and spare you the, little pieces. New York Times is big on copywriting, so I don't want to watch this and then not be able to use it either. But here's a little soundbite here.
If AOC and Nancy Mace were like, let's go get Subway after having a dialogue.
So she's talking about how a Republican and Democrat could go at it and then go get lunch afterwards. Look at this fucking guy right here. Yeah, what about you and fucking Candace Owens, right? What about that? Wouldn't that be great if you and Candace could go out and have Subway? Again, why Subway with fucking, they had that guy, Jared, who was a pedo that went to jail, and Subway got embarrassed. So you're still eating Subway, are you? You like all those places that are, pedo friendly? Holy shit! So she then says this, like she's trying to be a kumbaya, bring them together, spiritual leader, taking the high road. I forgive that young man. That bullshit, right? And she's so not. And this thing with Erika Kirk, or this thing with Candace Owens, I'm glad because it just destroys her. And nobody on the left's ever going to accept this person as, they're going to hate her. Like she's like their Hillary, right? So, but she says this here. Just look at this fucking big giant colossal cursor nose.
We're like, let's go get Subway after having a dialogue, a heated debate. But we even saw that, that minor olive branch that with Mamdani and Trump. There's something really special about the inner workings of an American.
Americans suck, bro. the inner workings of Americans usually don't have any inner workings because we're so externalized. This is why I talk about it all the time. There's just something special about the inner workings of Americans. It's just, come on. I mean, your fucking place is a mess, and you're a mess and fake, and where are your inner workings? Like, this is just all performative. She's talking about forgiveness here, and she has a new name for the patsy.
You think what the assassin did was correct. That's the exact opposite. It's
The assassin. So you're calling him the assassin now? But your fucking bullshit TPUS gay dudes over there are saying they don't want to contaminate they don't want the prejudice, the investigation, and yet you're calling him the assassin? Like, he could sue you. That's slander. He's not convicted. And even if he was convicted of murder, does that mean he's an assassin, right? And it's just like she calls the devil the enemy or whatever it is, right? She refers to the enemy and the assassin. It's not the assassin. This guy hasn't been tried, and there's lots of, for one, that caliber of bullet in his rifle were not used. And, why is it taking so fucking long? I mean, all of it. And she's just so fucking fake. And the assassin and the enemy. These, like, what are you, in a fucking comic book, right? Holy shit.
About, did you write that speech?
I did. I write all of my
You wrote it all down.
Yes.
Look how she's a giant compared to this fucking guy.
But that part I specifically left open. If you look at my speech notes, that part I prayed on so heavily beforehand, and that was a game time, exact second to second moment.
She forgave him. I forgive him. Remember that fucking weird bullshit? Oh my God. That young man, I forgive him. Let's go to that thing. It's a game time decision. Like, she's so fucking fake, right? I didn't know whether I was going to do it. I left it open just in case I could do it in front of everybody. Because it's so much better when you're doing it in front of a fucking gaudy ass fucking funeral with a bunch of people who are politicians and fucking snakes and venomous creatures who didn't give a shit about your husband just like you didn't. And there's fireworks and no real funeral and no real burial site, and that you're giving this speech in front of millions of people, and you want to be able to say something that'll stick and to have some pop to it. But you're not going to write it in there because you don't want everyone to think it was planned. So you're gonna sit there in your moment, praying at that moment in front of the crowd, and say, "I forgive him." Okay, so here it is.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save
in air quotes.
young men.
You want to save young men. You like those freaky young men. He was saving young men all the time.
Just like the one who took his life.
Boom. Building it up. Okay? I'm building it up. It's a game time decision. I might forgive him right here. I might fucking forgive him. I've left this open. It's open right here. There's a spot that's open in my speech whether I forgive him or not. I'm trying real hard. I'm trying. That young man. Oh, I got to whisper. That young man.
That young man.
That young man.
On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do.
They not know what they do? They not know what they do, Father. Father, they not know what they do.
That man.
That young man.
That young man.
That young man. It's a game time decision. I'm doing it.
I forgive him.
I did it. I forgive him. Oh, I did it. I didn't know whether I left it open. I left this thing fucking open. I didn't know. I didn't know whether I was going to do it or not. I didn't know I was going to forgive him. But I did forgive him. I did. I left it open. It was a game time decision, and it was a moment. It was so real. Oh, it's so real. It's so fucking real. Look at this guy crying. Oh, my God.
That was not something pre-planned. That was not. Because I'm not going to say something I don't truly believe, and when I prayed on it, I knew that the Lord would really press it on my heart. And if I was meant to say...
So it's amazing that the Lord delivered in that moment when you're in front of all those people. Of course, you're going to say shit that's not true. You do it all fucking time. You're a lying sack of shit. And that was performative as fuck. And, you don't get to forgiveness, whatever, 2 weeks away, especially when you're running a big media tour and you're not really fucking grieving your husband because you're so fucked. You're doing Instagram videos the day after and speeches 2 days after, and you're doing all this shit and you're fake crying everywhere you fucking go. It was fake as fuck, right? And you did it on that moment because it was a powerful moment for your dumb fucks who watch you and believe that shit. It was a powerful moment for them. But everyone else sees it as performative. And yeah, you got your audience and you've carved out a little audience for yourself. I don't know how long that's going to last. But, that's totally disingenuous. If it wasn't pre-planned, then why did you leave a space there to do it? That means you were planning to do it. And that, if you look at my speech, I'll show you. There's a gap. There's a 2-inch gap where I'm like, forgive or not forgive. I don't know. That's the question. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to see whether I feel it when that moment. I'll close my eyes and I'll whisper, that young man, a couple of times. And, I'll search around and kind of calculate what's the best thing to do. And I'll try to fake cry and go, I forgive him. It was pathetic. It was fucking brutal. And of course it was fake as fuck.
Because I truly meant it and believed it, then I was going to say it.
When you prayed before, you left it open? Like, then it was pre-planned. What are you talking about? You meant it and said it? That's what I was going to say it? Like, she just sucks so fucking bad. It's brutal. So I want to say this in a different way. Because she talks about how, she goes, everyone in the audience probably has had a situation where, you forgive somebody and you have like this toxic energy inside of you, which is an accurate assessment on her part. There's a toxin that goes with it, right? In the Sajmark system. I talk about how the hatred in your heart is your hatred. The hatred inside of you is your hatred. The object of your hate is where your hatred lands, but it's inside of you. The hatred's inside of you because you might hate somebody today and then somebody else tomorrow. And it's not that they're providing the hate, you're bringing the hate, right? And so you have to go inside and get rid of the hate and all these things. But it has to happen in a way where whenever there's change, where you abandon something because it's no longer good for you, right? It's like getting rid of alcohol addiction or something like this. And you hold a grudge against somebody and you realize that, the saying that people, it's like feeling resentful is like swallowing a poison pill and expecting your enemy to die, right? And you realize it's better for you. But it happens organically and naturally, and you have to realize that you don't like put it in this moment where you leave a space open in a speech and you say, I might try to forgive him because I'm in front of everybody. Grief and forgiveness, they come, in a natural way, and you have to go through a process. And the process isn't like, well, it'd be really cool if I could do it in front of all these people in this speech at his memorial, right? Because that's fake as fuck, and it's planned. So she's got those expensive red bottom fucking devil shoes. Red bottom shoes. So they go 21 minutes, so it's halfway through this thing, a little bit more than halfway through. I just scanned through it. There's a lot of things I could mock here, but Jesus Christ, it's tough to listen to her. But she hasn't, as far as I could tell, gone for the Kleenexes yet, right? Of course, he's not putting out these ones where she has something on the Kleenex that can make her cry, like something that'll make her tear up. And she didn't seem to bring her own. And so, and she's getting to the point where crying is like, are you still fucking crying? Like, it's 3 months in, and she talked about how she went through her whole grief process, which was, I could have mocked it, but I just, talking about how you can change pain into purpose and shit like that. Like, she just talks in this bumper sticker way. But this guy starts asking her about her kids, and she's like, well, maybe this is a good place to go for the Kleenex. The thumbnail of this guy's video is her crying with a Kleenex, right? Because they, that's the money shot, right?
In the office.
Yeah.
About your Thanksgiving this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on social media. And you were on social media.
Mm-hmm.
How easy is that for you? How hard is that for you? How easy or hard do you think that is for your
Reach for it. Fuck it, she's reaching for it.
kids? It's maybe too early for them.
Very.
Dab your nose.
They're not getting a
Then
phone for
smile. Like, how are you crying and smiling at the same time? It's like her hidden talent.
a very long time. It's interesting. Social media, like many things, it can be used for such good and it can be used for such evil.
Such good and such evil.
And Charlie and I both intentionally, especially after he was murdered, I took it all off my phone. I don't even have news apps on my phone. I have nothing on my phone. I will let other people post for me and siphon through those comments. That is not.
I mean your Instagram posts that you obviously signed off on because they're pictures of you and people are filming you and taking these pictures and posted your writings, right?
Not have the brain space for that.
Okay, so she got the Kleenex, and she's got it here. And so let me scan through here and see when she uses it again. This is great. Erika Kirk's snot rag. This is Erika Kirk's snot rag, right? And she's got it here. And this isn't like her specific thing. Now, I don't know if she has pockets on that thing, but putting a snot rag in, she's touched her nose with the idea that mucus was pouring out of her nose, and she took this snot rag and soaked it up with that. And then she's going to have to use the same one to dab her eyes, which is fucking gross, right? And she's got 20 more minutes to go, and there's no trash. She's got this.
Led understanding of the world.
Okay, so she's got it there. Let me go through this thing. See when she uses it again. She's got it there. She's just holding it, and she's got it there. Oh, there she goes. She's going to do it here.
And remember that that's so important, and that your life is so important. Because those letters aren't just avatars and social media bots. Those are real humans and real people.
Boom, she dabbed it. Those are real people, real humans. She's dabbed it. She dabbed it there. And then there she's dabbing here. I was going to dab it again.
And I think that that's why I wanted to showcase that on social media.
You guys used to actually turn social
She's
media.
got tears. She's got real fucking tears. I saw one. Now she's dabbing it again. She's dabbing it again.
I mean, I know you said
Yes.
you now aren't looking at social media, you've taken the apps off, but for somebody who was in the social media world,
Look at her fucking
apparently you guys used to.
Look how weird that fucking is. She's dabbing the shit out of it, and then let's see if she has to dab again. Now that thing's pretty wet, right? Because she had some real tears, probably some real snot. We don't know. And she's got that fucking wet fucking tissue in her hands filled with snot and tears. And she's got another, it's 25 minutes in. She's got 15 minutes left here after that big tear dabbing and snotting. And she's got that thing. What's she going to do with it? Wait, is it gone? Where'd it go?
It's
Where the fuck
really
did you do?
awesome
Where'd it
to
go? Wait, we got to fucking scan this thing and feel like where she got rid of it. All right, so here she was at 25 minutes in where she's snotting it and fucking, she's got this cloth here. She's dabbing it there. And then she's got it. She's sitting it there.
You now aren't looking at social media, you've taken the apps off, but for somebody who
Drop
was
it on the floor. Throw it on the floor.
in the social media world, apparently you guys used to actually turn the
still
phones
got
off
it
at least
there.
for a day.
Yes, Charlie would.
Still got it there. Still got it there. She drops it on the floor. Where'd it go? Still got it there. It's right fucking there. There it is. This is so she's dabbing her chin here.
As I said, where we would disagree about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period.
Boom! Right here. She dropped it on the table. Fucking boom. It's fucking gross. She's got COVID, bro. You're fucked. It's right here. You're within 6 feet. Look at this fucking. Dropped it. Boom. Fucking got it. Right there. She dropped it right fucking there.
Time.
He didn't say shit. Hey, fucking get that snot nose right off my table. Where's the trash can, bro? Have some consideration. And she. Let's watch that again. Let's slow this thing down. How do we do that? Speed. It's playback speed. 0.25. Wait, what's this thing?
I think we should, if we could.
Here it comes, bro.
Just head on.
She's bringing it down here, bro. You're talking the fucking way. She's like, all right, I gotta get rid of this thing. It's too fucking wet. It's too gross. I can't hold on to this thing for 20 minutes. I gotta fucking, what am I gonna do? She's plotting right now. You're talking away, bullshitting fucking thing. She's going, all right, I got it. I got it. I'm gonna go one more dab here. I'm gonna dab my chin. Got it. I got it. Fucking boom. I fucking got it, bro. And then, like, where are I gonna go with this thing? I dab my eyes one more time. It's not really appropriate for me to cry anymore. This doesn't make any sense. Boom. Let's, bam! Got it. Fucking nails it right fucking there. Boom. You were looking away. You don't even know where that's, you don't even know there's a snot rag there, bro. Sleight of fucking hand. And then, does she go for another rag here? Does she go again for the tears? What about this guy? He start crying? When does he need some Kleenexes? Nothing there. She's nothing up her sleeve. I gotta make this go regular speed again. Playback speed, fucking normal. And I gotta unmute it.
As opportunity for really getting back to the basics of what our party stands for.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Your party's fucked. We're going to lose the midterms. And Trump's done. And look at that giant fucking man hand. Look at this fucking thing right here. Gaudy jewelry. I mean, big ass fuck. What is she, like 6'5"? I mean, the guy's either a hobbit or she's like 6'5". And then, all right, nothing more to see here.
Said he can't forgive or whatever, but the president and I are dear friends. I have such a deep respect for him, and
He just fucking sucks. You can't forgive the guy here.
we voted for.
We just heard a lot of things from Gavin Newsom that were quite critical of this president. Are there things that you don't like about what the president does? I'm curious if there's things,
No, I
I don't know if you
understand.
feel like you could openly say, yeah, you know what, we think this is no good or this is no good.
No, I mean, you want to do a perfect example. One is when you just said he can't forgive or whatever, but the president and I are dear friends.
No, we're dear friends. We're dear friends. Like, he's one of my dearest friends. I've met him like 500 times. And then, he likes dudes. And all right, Jesus Christ. See if this goes anywhere at the end here. I mean, where's Snot Rag's still there? Don't worry, don't fucking...
That is something to me that even though he is in a different location, the Lord can still use that.
Boom. Erika Kirk.
Erika Kirk, everybody.
Erika Kirk, woo!
Thank you for a fabulous.
Woo, so fabulous. So, you know what's fabulous? TPUSK is fabulous. All right. Okay. So still Monday, December 8th. This video is going up tomorrow night. So I'm going to leave it open in case something happens today. I'm going to edit up to the point of whatever it is, and I might add some comments tomorrow. There's only one comment worth adding. So many of you guys know that I do this spiritual practice, Sajmark spiritual practice. It was very grassroots. They didn't ever advertise it. When the internet came about, there was only the official site. People were asked not to post things on social media because lots of people didn't understand the system. And, it wasn't something that people were supposed to just find in the way that you find things. Like, not through advertisements and things like this. You were just supposed to find it some way. Like, I found it I was going through, my ex-girlfriend was seeing some therapist, counselor. And she suggested I go, or I don't know how that went about, but I ended up seeing this woman. She was a channeler, and she started doing the meditation. And after I was done, had my closing sort of session with her, and I was moving away, she told me about this meditation, and it was a whole thing. I've talked about this before. But it was meant to be. Like, I was going to do this. It was going to happen. And so, but anyways, the fourth master of the system just shit the bed. Like, he just turned into a total piece of shit, which I've documented. I made a video about all the scumbaggery, all the scumbag stuff that was going on. And I called the guy a little bitch. And like, in my journey series. And so I made some long videos. And I sent it out on Facebook, and I had all these friends, Facebook friends, many who I really didn't know. They were people I knew of, or some people I did know a little bit, and some people I knew a little bit more, but they weren't really like, I wasn't close to them. But I put it on Facebook, and it had in the title things about, what's now called heartfulness, right? And Dodgy ended up watching it, the guy who's the president, and all these other people. These things that used to get like 2,000 or 3,000 views started to get 8,000 or 9,000 views. Some of the videos were like fucking 9 hours long, right? And they started watching it. And these were people that had turned on me, and I didn't give a fuck about what they thought. And then people started coming back to me that I didn't meet, that I didn't know, who agreed with me. And some of them were trying to manipulate me and lying to me and trying to get me involved in something I didn't want to get involved with because they couldn't, they were afraid to speak up. And a bunch of them said that I was getting death threats on WhatsApp. Fucking they were calling, not death threats, they were calling for my assassination. Nobody confronted me directly. But, I thought it was funny because these guys are very, I would call them, soft is a positive way of saying it, and pussies would be another way, would be the American way. But these were, people, whatever they were, right? But, it's something you have to kind of a little bit take seriously. But, nothing ever came of that stuff. But in that, there's one of my viewers sent me this, and then there's a guy called the Dodgy Truther. Dodgy's the name of the guy who shit the bed. And Dodgy has created this shell organization called Heartfulness, right? Like it's something that he owns. And the Sajmarg system, which is a method, and the Sri Ramchandra mission are organizations where the master of the system couldn't take the properties. They have probably $1 billion worth of ashrams, multi-millions of dollars worth of properties and assets, and he wants to glom them for him and his family, or whatever he's doing there. This is what I've been told. And he's created this shell company called Heartfulness, right? And it's very much like TPUSK, and something that maybe started off organically. I don't know, Charlie Kirk always seemed like a piece of shit, ambitious and whatever, materialistic. But then they start having these shell companies, right? They have ways of scamming off assets. And one of my viewers sent me this, and this guy called the Dodgy Truther, he's an Indian guy, educated. He's like a professional photographer, and he has some money, and, he's a upper-class person there. And he posts derogatory shit about Dodgy, but most of the people won't because they're scared, and they're just the way that their culture is there in India. And he sent me the same thing. And the reason they sent me it is the second master system wished that people in every household around the world would come to know about Sajmarg. But Dodgy and his cronies said, change the word Sajmarg, which means the natural path, and put in heartfulness. And Babaji never said the word heartfulness. And the organization he created was the Sri Ramchandra Mission, named after his spiritual guru and master, the guy who's known as Lalaji. And the method was called Sajmarg, and Heartfulness was never part of it. And so that was something that Dodgy created to be a shell company. And if somebody I told about, who's heard about the organization from me can see through that, right? And all these other people. It just shows you the degradation. And the reason that I'm saying this is this third master of the system had said that, the way that an organization collapses, it becomes immoral or goes into depravity. The first part is sexual depravity. Sexuality is a natural component of human existence. In the Sajmarg system, the masters of the system all had wives and kids. It was considered unnatural to be a monk or a priest, be somebody who takes a vow of celibacy, because that's sexual reproduction and marriage are a part of natural human life, right? But there is the depraved aspect of sexuality, which is all pervasive now with the rampant onset of pornography and all these twisted kind of ways of sexual expression. It's because your sexual drive is very powerful. So they use it in advertising. They use it in every possible way, right? Because of the powerful nature of your sexual drive. And then the pleasure that's involved in sexual behavior, right? There's the drive, the sexual urge to reproduce, which is, because if there wasn't that, there would be no fucking people, right? If sex was unpleasant and, and the result was kids, right? unless you desperately needed children, if you didn't have some internal craving, not just a sexual craving, but women have this thing where they go into nesting. I mean, men have these compulsions to reproduce beyond just the sexual urges, right? And so they exploit that. And, it becomes something where the other part of this is when people become rich, powerful, and famous, then, it's like what Trump said, grab them by the pussy. Like they take liberties and they think they're, monogamy is no longer something that appeals to them because they have this, this open door of people wanting to be with them in one way or another, and they can use that to, leverage sexual interactions, right? And so you become rich and famous, you become someone, that people see and you're out there in some way. You need to, you need to check that shit. You need to, be aware of that trap, right? And so there was an ashram that's not connected to what I do, yoga, hatha yoga, where they did poses. And there was a guru at that ashram, was in Massachusetts. And there's a big scandal where these people, these old yogi guys who were like in their 60s and 70s, were banging all these young American girls, and there's a lot of shit like that. And I was living in a shared house, and my roommate said he went to that ashram. He said you could feel the sexual energy that was charged with it, right? And there's these spiritual, these chakra points, and there's one that's controlling the sexual urges. And, these people who fuck around with the kundalini, and this is, I think it's called the Muladhara point or something like that. And it's, there's these power points that run up from the base of your spine all the way up your spine. And each one of them is a potential, if the power comes out and you're a depraved person or you have tendencies inside your system, it will, the power will make those tendencies go south, right? Like if you have power, and another thing is political power or religious power or the power of fame. And when you have power go into your system, if you have impurities in your system, those impurities get empowered, and then they flower, like they bloom, and then you have a depraved person. So like there's all these things about the cleaning aspect in the Sajmark system, and then having some self-discipline. And that's why, it's not just about sexuality. I'm just using that as an example. But, power corrupts because people have things inside their system that are corruptible. That's why you take a really nice person who wins the lottery or gets, something, some kind of thing one way or another, gets some kind of little perk or whatever it is. And, something happens to the person that they have these things inside of them, and it pulls out those things. Also war. There's things inside of people that come out during war. Things that people are hiding or repressed, and then, under the right circumstances, they come out. And people should be aware of all these tendencies. Like human beings should be trained about this, and they're not. And when you become successful, it's the first thing that you should understand that, that there's going to be these temptations, right? These temptations, like in the biblical sense. And that's why all these people are just so completely fucked up. Like I was just covering this. For those of you listening to the Journey series, I was talking about how pretty much all these Republican pundits, these Republican, right-wing people, the males, most of them, the media, the right-wing media people and social media people are gay. It's fucking bizarre because, it's kind of the party of anti-gay, and yet there's all these gay dudes or closeted gay dudes or guys who you think are gay because they are, And, it's like, it's just, there's all these things, right? It's a part of the whole, the aspect of people's words don't mean anything. Like they tell you that they're like you and they're not like you, right? They're something else. Well, anyways, I'll wrap this one up here and then I'll wait till tomorrow. And if there's there's one comment I want to get to here. And here it is. So the person writes, December 15th is her husband's birthday. This is about Candace Owens. They gave her 24 hours to decide the logistics of abandoning her husband on his birthday, newborn and toddlers, and her day job to travel to Tennessee to Arizona. All of this after getting mocked for describing the threats to her life. Why would she want to appear from anywhere other than her studio? And the answer is because she says she's a journalist, right? You know, I mean, she wants to ask him these questions. She's covered this thing for 2.5 months. And, you know, Turning Point was always a part of her life, and Charlie Kirk or whatever. I mean, would she turn down an interview with the fucking Macrons? Like, she's supposed to be a fucking journalist, that's why. I'm not saying that she is. I'm not saying any of this stuff is true. But, you know, going there and asking them the questions and presenting the evidence and making them fucking squirm is what her job is supposed to be. And she's been talking all this shit about them, which I believe at least some of it's true. And, you know, they might be in symbiosis. This might be a, you know, left-right cover thing. You always have to consider that. You know, or they're just going to war with each other, but they're scumbags who have dirt on each other, right? You know, it's when these scumbags go after each other, and both of them are scumbags, right? Like they both, you know, she's made up shit, she's lied, she's exaggerated, and then she's also told the truth because these guys are scumbags, right? But they're both leaving out that Charlie was a scumbag, which he was. And so this is what I'm talking about. Like, we live in a depraved world, and this is part of the depravity. Anyways, like I said, let me wrap this one up here. And, you know, like, there's no reason to ever believe any of these people because, one, they're human beings, and two, they have power, and they have, you know, they're part of the show, and they're liars. They're just, you know, people are liars, and these people are particular liars because that's what they are. Anyways, like I said, I'll add something tomorrow, or I'll wrap this up tomorrow, given what happens with the comment section. And that's it for now. Okay, Tuesday, December 9th, I'm going to do one more voiceover this morning, which is this one right here. And I'm going to talk about a few comments. Most of the comments now are positive. But, you know, there was some that are interesting to talk about. It's something I was going to say about Erika J. Kirk, and I forgot, and now I just remembered what it is. So I'll start with that. Well, first of all, let me start with that so I don't lose it again. You know, there's this certain act, there's this certain way that spiritual people will act. You know, with people, not spiritual people, like fake grifting guru spiritual people. You know, like in India, they would put on robes. They would become sannyasis, and they would take a certain tone of voice, not just in India, but it's across the world. There's a certain way that they have of talking to make it sound like they're serene. It's a certain way they have of acting. There was a woman, I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is like a hotbed for New Age stuff, right? There's these places out west, Boulder, Colorado, Santa Fe, New Mexico, you know, Sedona, Arizona, these places that are, you know, there's some spiritual energy there, so it's not like a fake thing. There are places where you'll go and there'll be natural spiritual energy, like the Redwood Forest. It's just, there's something there, right? It's easier to meditate. It's easier to think of God anywhere by the ocean. You know, there's just a cleansing from this massive body of water, a peace, and the sunsets and the sunrises, you know, at these places. This is a spiritual time, and when the sun sets and the sun rises, it's a balance between light and darkness. There's these two periods every day where it's just, you know, it's not just the beauty of the sunrise, it's what you feel at that moment in the sunset, right? And so there are these places in Santa Fe, some of these places are like that. And there's all these people rich Californians, people who have, you know, they have these trust funders and people like that. And Santa Fe was filled with like divorced women who, you know, lived in some city in the West and wanted to do New Age stuff. And they would go, and there was all these, you know, divorced ladies there that were interested in like New Age spirituality. And there was a woman there, I forget her name, and she was, I think, from Tennessee or something. And she went to India, and some guru said to her, "You are that." And she took that and started a whole like little New Age, I don't want to call it a cult, but, you know, she started to sit there and she would answer questions, you know, spiritual stuff. And, you know, I worked at this treatment center for really rich people that were there in Santa Fe when I was in graduate school. I talked about this before. I used to pick people up at the airport. And there's a woman who was supposed to be in charge of the spirituality. You know, they bring in these sort of New Age guru guests, And this woman was Native American, and I've always had a fascination with the Native American culture. And it's, the Native American people are very connected to nature, and they were more authentic people than the white people that came to invade them. They were more like living, more like natural people, but they weren't moving upward in terms of internal spirituality, right? They weren't, there's a difference between communing with nature and being one with nature, which is a good thing, and then connecting to the divinity within you, which is another thing. And so, like, she was saying a bunch of things I knew not, and she had brought in other stuff, but she was telling these people stuff, and there's a number of times I've heard this where, like, I know so much more than the other people, but no one would think about me as a guru because I don't act that way, right? Like, I don't, put on some kind of fake guru act. And, I don't have that in me. Like, I don't have that, that charisma type of, I don't have that desire to, be that for people, right? Because, it's just not in me. Like, and it can be sincere, that having that quality or insincere. Most times it's insincere. It's like people who are singers or people who are comedians or people who are politicians or leaders in business and rich people who are whatever, and they command your respect. Like a billionaire walks into the room and everybody wants the billionaire's blessing financially. You can be like these experts they bring in on TV, when they have these pundits and people on whatever it is. And so I don't have that desire to be seen that way. Like, I don't want to list my credentials and act. They all have an act. They all have a way of talking to you like you feel like they know what they're talking about, right? And spiritual people will have this kind of like, aura of calmness. They'll try to act calm and, like this sense of, they have more connection to God than you. And Megyn Kelly, when she interviewed Erika Kirk, was trying to perpetrate this fraud that Erika Kirk is this spiritual woman, right? When they tried to roll her out before Charlie died, like they had her out there with young women talking about how to be a good wife, a good Christian wife. And she was saying things I'm familiar with because my ex had studied and this idea of these Christian women, how to be a good Christian woman is out there. And they have various things that they have. It's a vast amount of knowledge and attitudes, and it's very similar to stuff that they have in other religions, right? About how to be a good woman and a good mom, and be a godly person, a godly woman. But she comes off as an insincere, wannabe reality star, beauty queen type of person, right? Because that's what she is. She's a kind of a grifter, and it didn't take. Like, she wasn't very popular in the TPUSK stuff. She was just Charlie's wife, and so when he died, she tried to, do this thing where she's acting spiritual, the whole forgiving the kid, the patsy, right, all that stuff. And, it isn't taking because it's not real. It's just this way of being. It's a way of fake acting like you're spiritual. And you can have some knowledge, like she has a little bit of knowledge about, Christian stuff specifically. But it's, to be a real guru, you have to be there for other people, right? Like, you have to, if somebody comes to you and they want to be your disciple, then you're just responsible for their spiritual well-being, their spiritual evolution. And it's a fucking huge ask, right? Like, that's why when somebody wrote to me and said, you might not think of yourself as a master, but I do, and I'm like, well, you might want to accept me as a master, but who says I want to accept you as a disciple? Because it's a huge responsibility. Like, you're responsible to connect this person, help this person in their spiritual journey. And oftentimes the people suck, and they always suck. We all suck at it because there's some, battle with our egos that doesn't want us to become spiritual. Our egos are all resisting our soul's path and our spiritual nature. And so, the real guru, a real spiritual master has to, be there and help you fight through all that shit. And it's a huge fucking responsibility just for one other person. And you have to do it for hundreds of thousands of people. Like, you have lots of sleepless nights. And, and then the other part is in the Sajmark system, when when the guru takes responsibility, the master takes responsibility. When you fail, they think they have to think it's their responsibility. Like, it's just, that's what has to happen. when you fail, which you ultimately, more cases than not, or you'll go through periods of failure, and maybe you fail altogether, the master of the system feels like a piece of shit because they didn't help you. It's this whole thing. It's a natural feeling. It's like a feeling of their failure because they didn't do what was necessary. It's like a teacher who feel like parents feel like they're when their kids are failures, that they failed them, right? That you have to feel that way. Like it's natural, even if you fight against it. It's just there. It's just this sense of, like you're working together to accomplish a goal, and you're the guru, you're the teacher, and you didn't. When there's failure of the student, the teacher feels responsible. And on a spiritual level, it's even deeper. And Erika Kirk doesn't have any of that shit, right? It's all performative. It's like, when people look at a spiritual person, like when a priest walks in a room of Catholics, and there's just this sense of like, oh, look, you're higher than me, or this kind of, this is how people feel, the Pope and all that stuff. And, spiritual people have this, reverence to the people, bow before them, touch their feet, all this kind of shit you see around the world. And people want that shit. They want to be worshipped, right? And Erika Kirk wants to be seen as that. And she's fucking the grifter, right? She's totally not that. And it's really, it's hard to watch. That's why she's so unlikable. And also just her personality. Anyways, let's get into the comments. Oh, there's one more thing. So Candace Owens showed a brief clip of Milo. And it was about how Milo was talking about how it isn't Candace's fault. That the guy, there's a clip, I'm going to show the clip of Tim Pool losing it and calling Candace a cunt, right? Like he just loses his shit over this thing. And he's hemorrhaging viewers. Apparently he's realized that he shares an audience with Candace, and now he's lost all these viewers. And he's got financial issues or some shit. But he just swears and like loses it. And then they're kind of talking about this. And Milo says, it was the fundamental building block was Jeffrey Epstein, which I've talked about. You guys all know that when Trump failed at Jeffrey Epstein, that caused the MAGA to implode, right? Which was a part of it. That's just one of the many promises that Trump, the things that he pretended to be aligned with. And so, that's why they're going to lose the midterms. And, she said some other things about it, and Candace was all psyched about that. But I noticed how Candace didn't play the clip where Milo said that Charlie fucked him over and didn't, spread lies about him. And he was a piece of shit that was like canceling people, even though he was so supposedly against censorship. And, the stuff about how all these guys are potentially gay, right? Like she didn't talk about that, and that Charlie was gay. She was like, showing the clip of the thing that mattered to her, but not the other stuff that he said that undermines her credibility and her, even maybe possibly her marriage, right? So, these guys all cherry pick the truth, right? Which you can't do. You can't say this guy said this and I agree with this and not mention the other things he said that you don't agree with, right? Because these are substantial things that have to do with everything to do with your worldview. Because Charlie was a shekel-taking piece of shit. And these guys, these right-wing pundits all seem to be gayish or, gay, they act as a way that you would think they might be gay, right? And yet they pretend to be anti-gay in this whole thing. So, the hypocrisy is off the charts. So let's get into it here. Crap, I lost my tabs. I have this this thing I have open on my MacBook Pro. There it is. I've redone it here. Somebody asks, does caffeine affect one's ability to feel the transmission inside Marg? Nothing physical affects the ability. Well, I wouldn't say that. Drugs and alcohol make it harder for you to affect it, but caffeine doesn't. I mean, Master Chargy drank coffee quite a bit, and Babaji smoked a hookah because he had toothache, and so when he was a kid, when he was younger, and so he started smoking cigarettes. And Lology said, if you're going to smoke a hookah, it's cleaner. So cigarettes have nicotine in them, and Babaji, he didn't really have much of a connection to the physical world. He wasn't He barely ate anything, but he really enjoyed smoking the hookah. Chargy had smoked cigarettes for a bit, and then he quit. And then everyone was kind of, it was, even though Babaji smoked the hookah, it was kind of, this idea was really it's not so great to smoke. And there was a young guy who, he wrote a book with Kamlesh, a young American guy, nice guy. And we had some conversations in India. He was living there. His wife was working for the UN as a diplomat or something. And he was smoking cigarettes, and I walk up, and he's like, I have permission to do this. And I'm like, yeah, didn't even notice you were smoking, right? I mean, like I didn't, like he was worried that I was judging him. He said that both the third master and Kamlesh, who ended up being, he was good friends with Kamlesh and had wonderful things to say about him when Kamlesh was just a preceptor, the guy Daji, who like dropped like a stone. And he said that they had said that the quitting cigarettes because a guy was really attached to it was probably have more of a negative effect in terms of the impressions, the desire to smoke or whatever would cause more grossness than the smoking itself, some spiritual grossness. But as soon as there was health effects, like there were signs that there was health effects, he had to quit, something like that. But lots of people drink coffee, and chai is a big thing in India, and so I would think that it might, because it helps to speed up the heart. I mean, there could be some levels of people, if you're drinking too much of it, like it could be amped up. But it doesn't act as an interferer to, as far as I could tell, there's no, I don't think it helps or hurts, because the idea of the seismic system is to penetrate beyond the physical body. But if you're taking opiates, like when I had an operation and was taking OxyContin, I couldn't meditate. It was just sucky, and I just felt horrible. It definitely interfered with my ability to connect with the divinity within me. So, it was a really difficult time, and I was having side effects from the thing. And so, drugs and alcohol definitely impair your ability to meditate and connect to God, because it just, warps your whole perception, right? And these things are toxins that, I mean, you can still connect to God, you just can't experience it, right? It blocks, people are so gross in their habits, like gross foods, and like there's a way to think about God when you're seeing things, but like if you're playing a lot of graphic video games or watching a lot of graphic pornography and graphic violence and, all the things that a lot of drama, like a lot of reality TV drama or a lot of like heavy metal music and things, there's things that have very gross vibrations, right? We live in a very gross time. And when you watch something like that, you have to do like a lot of cleaning just to be able to connect to the divinity within you. Like it has to be the cleaning process, because, it's so gross that it blocks, God is subtle, right? God is, God is, the essence of love is the most subtle thing in the universe, in in creation. And so, to feel it, you have to become subtle yourself. It's one of the primary teachings of Saj Mark. And so, yeah. So there's that. Let me go to the next comment here. The Z-biotic stuff, this person writes, this is about Don Lemon's pushing Z-biotic, which is this antibiotic. It's supposed to be like not antibiotic. It's supposed to be like a probiotic kind of thing. I think that's what they're trying to pitch it as. I don't think, whatever. But this person writes, the Z-biotic stuff is a genetically engineered bacterial strain. It mimics an enzyme that your body uses to break down part of alcohol, but it only helps with one symptom of hangover, not everything. It has to be timed right, or it will just be stomach acid. Again, it's GMO, so I wouldn't put that shit in me. Praise God, so glad I stopped drinking when I did. So she was pitching GMO shit to keep you from getting a hangover instead of, stop drinking it. Paul nailed it. Lemons is less gay than TPUS gay. Your channel is not somebody else. Your channel is a comedy channel. For some reason, YouTube recap says it helped me to delve into AI technology and explore AI is used different areas, and that future might hold. Perhaps you had to deal with their bots a lot this year, and and this is what they're talking about. No, what they're talking about is there's other people who use the terms pockets of the future. And one of those people who use the term, they don't call themselves that, but there are people who have used it. There's people who have used Apocalypse Now, my other channel. And there's a comedy thing that happened in Australia, and they used it Apocalypse, but this is after I already coined the phrase, because I'm a trendsetter. But people have used pockets of the future, and there's just one channel that deals with technology. And this is a bunch of scientists, and they've used this same term. They don't know about me, I assume. And they just thought that they, whatever it is. And so the bots, the first ChatGPT was confusing my channel with that channel. It had melded those two channels together. So when people would search the ChatGPT, they would say that the channel's about technology, and it's kind of funny, but I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of of YouTube channels. Okay, respect. So there's that, and they really don't understand. ChatGPT really can't understand it the way they don't have a soul. So I was talking about how nobody has a solution. So this guy wrote he had a solution. I have a solution, brother. You see, if you bring these leaders before me, where I am the judge and prison guard, things will get rectified instantly. The money will go to people in the form of gold, re-education camps using 2x4s to get the point across. These people only know violence, so negotiations are futile. Engagement is fruitful. Okay, so you don't have a fucking solution. Like you have like a dumb fuck thing. Like that's what a dumb fuck would think is a solution to the problem. So first of all the gold in the world is $29 trillion, right? And that's based in the price of $4,166 today. So $29 trillion for all the gold in the world, right? And that's the inflated price. So it used to be 15 just a little while ago, or even less, $10 trillion. And we have $2 quadrillion of debt that's being traded back and forth like currency. And so if you gave everybody gold, that would wipe out $2 trillion of resources and wealth out there that people think they have. Like you can't give everybody, if you have $1 million in the bank, they would give you $20,000 worth of gold or whatever it was, right? And you'd be like, hey, where'd my other fucking money go? Oh, it just disappeared because some guy thinks he's got a solution because he doesn't understand the fucking problem, right? And then having re-education camps with 2x4s, so beating people with 2x4s, the so-called elite, you think that's going to solve fucking a problem? So the problem is like, that kind of solution, like people thinking that they would be somehow different than these so-called elites, that you would be the judge and jury. Like you're so, wonderful a person that you can judge people and be the jury for them. And that you're the one person who sees the truth and you're the one person who can, that's the kind of attitude that makes you into a fucking dictator, right? Like, that you would be the judge and jury to them. Like you're that guy, you're that motherfucker, right? And so, that's not a solution. It's not an economic solution. It's not a solution of, like you want to use violence you might as well just kill all the elite, right? And then what would happen? Well, there would be nothing there. There would be no society and no one would agree on shit. And you think everybody would follow you because you're a knower. That's not possible. Jesus was an evolved soul. And look at what happened to him, right? So you could be a saint and somebody with, insight and the ability to see things that other people can't. And you can't get dumb fucks to do what's best for them, right? There is a solution. Find divinity within you. I say it all the time here. It's 100% the solution. We have had saints in this world. We have people who are more evolved. You think if we had a society full of saints of spiritual people, even if everybody was just a little bit more spiritual. Like if you were a little bit, internalized, and you could feel things and have compassion and empathy and wisdom and shit that all come from connecting to the divinity within you. It fucking works. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody's done it. There's been so many people have come down and said that shit, and people don't fucking embrace it. That's why, unless something happens, and like I said, there's a, plan in place for massive population reduction, getting rid of 7/8 of the dumb fucks and evil people, people who have gone in a wayward direction, higher developed souls that came down here and were saints for a while, but then became demons, and get rid of all those people like that. They won't be able to reincarnate in here, and then have, all the distractions, all the fucking pleasures, all the good things about this planet that keep people from connecting to, turn it into a desert wasteland, post-apocalyptic wasteland, where it's hard to breathe, it's hard to live in your physical body, where you're just trying to eke out a survival. And, knowing that human beings have fucked up the planet, and so you feel like a piece of shit, everybody does, and there's this, desire to connect to God and redeem oneself and humanity. And then, maybe fucking then people will embrace their higher nature. But, not 2x4s, bro. Fucking, it's just silly. It's the exact opposite. I enjoy listening to you until you swear like a trucker. Well, I liked reading this comment till I heard you say you swear like a trucker. It's like I've already said this over and over again. These Christians, these people who grow up in Christianity, their parents really stress swearing and not swearing. Swearing isn't subtle. Like I talked about God being subtle. So, like I'd worked on it before, but I mean, given, my level of whatever I do here, it's necessary, so, but if that's going to prevent you from getting the benefit that I offer here, or that's offered here, tough shit for you. Go find somebody who is able to say this stuff and doesn't swear. Somebody who has the same, whatever ability to articulate and disseminate this information. There's not anybody else out there. So this is your swearing is your, the thing you have to get over. It's the price you have to pay. So finally, this is kind of maybe the most important comment. Person here, let me make it bigger here. So in the video, it's all a distraction without a resolution. Erika and Candace call each other out. 48, 46 in the video. I guess I talk about this in the video. I spoke too much to my kids. This is about being a truther, talking about truther things. I spoke too much to my kids. Ams, my daughter, being a teenager at the time, I could see how it affected her and her young adult life now. I wish I would have kept my mouth shut a little bit more. I was trying to give them wisdom, but I think it backfired a little bit. Because I talked about this with my own kids. So here's the issue, right? So for me, my dad was a guidance counselor. And my three sisters and my brother all met people my dad had done a great job as a guidance counselor. My dad was a putz, and he was incompetent. He complained about his job and his commute constantly. He was just a very immature, narcissistic piece of shit, right? Like, in a sense of being incompetent and a failure. And, he helped kids. Like, he helped all these kids, inner city kids, get into colleges, right? Like, he helped them, he was good at his job. Like, for those kids, people would come up and say, oh, your dad really helped me out a lot. So my siblings all experienced. I never met anybody, but they all did. And so my dad was able to do his job. He worked 35 years as a guidance counselor. And he was able to do his job, for the most part. There were some issues there that I'm not going to get into because it's not the point. But me and him never had a conversation about college. I mean, my entire life. And all my three siblings, my four siblings, they struggled. They could, my one sister could have got in to better colleges. Everyone in my family was smart. Like they were, above average intelligence. And, like my one sister should have been a doctor. Like she worked in the medical community, and the organization stole her pension. Like the hospital went tits up or something, and that kind of thing. But she could have been a doctor or should have been a doctor. Like she, like everybody was underachieving, and my dad, didn't really help them, any of us. I dated this girl, her stepfather, the father was a mechanic, and they had broken cars all the time. The cars were always breaking down, and, this kind of thing, right? It's my dad didn't do his job as a guidance counselor, and my parents never talked to me. There was a time where I was smoking pot, and I had a bong, and I hid the bong in a beanbag. And my mom somehow, I don't know if she was searching the room or what, I don't know how she found it, but she takes the bong out of the beanbag, right? And so I got to get another fucking bong, and it wasn't easy when you're in high school. I'm like 15 years old, so I don't have the ability to drive to whatever pot shops existed and get a bong. And so I had to get a bong and like smuggle it home, whatever it was. And so I put the bong, I had it a different place. And like 3 weeks go by, a month, and my mom puts the bong back into the beanbag, right? And now, like, fucking, we've never had a conversation, right? There was never any conversation about me smoking pot. Like, they knew I was doing it and never talked to me because they were fucking competent, right? And so when I was going to have kids, I was like, well, I'm going to have conversations with my kids, right? I'm going to prepare them for life. I'm going to prepare them for their life. And, a lot of that had to do with the Sagemark spirituality stuff. And then, of course, the truther stuff. So, I didn't want that fucking incompetence, like I had to figure it out. Like I was like 7, 8 years old. I used to walk to school, and I had to either walk up a hill and then, over a busy street. The school was like, if I cut through yards, if I climbed fences, my neighbors across the street, I was friends with some kids, and I could hop their fence. We just used to hop fences and walk through people's yards all the time, like as kids. And, it was just normal behavior, but it was kind of a pain in the ass. And so, that was the shortest way to get to school. But either way, I had to walk down one hill and then across this busy street, up this busy street, and then take a right on the school street, Whiting Lane School, where I went to in West Hartford. And I had to walk up this hill, and it was like, to me, this hill was epic. I went back as an adult, I was like, that's the hill? It's barely a fucking hill. I used to ride my bike down this hill. I mean, it was like, this hill, like fucking, there was a time I was riding a wheelie and my front tire popped off. I'm popping a wheelie and I'm riding my bike and the tire comes off. And I just have these metal forks that are going to hit the road. And I know I'm going over the fucking handlebars because I understood physics as a like a 10-year-old or whatever kid. But, so I'm going to school and I had like I had been sick and there was some like lip sore. There was some, I had some abrasion, from blowing my nose a lot. So my mom takes a wad of Bactomycin or one of those, creams that look like a booger and slaps it all over my face and says, don't take it off. And I was a good kid. So my mom told me, don't take it off. So I go to school with this thing that looks like a giant booger under my nose. And, that was a great day for me. Kids aren't judgmental at all. And so I remember there was a kid, I don't remember the kid himself, but I remember his name. And he must have been really like giving me the business about the booger, right? And I'm just sitting there like I knew I was fucked, I was like, all right, this is just, I'm not even going to try to explain that this is, I didn't even say a word about it. But I knew my mom, well, anyway, so one of my friends was defending me and said, where's your knife and fork, McCormick? Meaning like you're too obsessed with this booger. You must want to eat it. So I don't remember who McCormick was, but I remember this, and I don't remember which friend said this thing. I just remember this line because it kind of was funny, as a kid. Where's your knife and fork, McCormick? So I realized that my parents were incompetent. and then I had to figure things out for myself, like at a young age, and I just stopped fucking listening to them. But they didn't, they didn't talk to me anyway. We had no conversations about my future. So like I wanted my kids to have that. I wanted my kids to have parental guidance. So I went the other way, and some of that was truther stuff. And of course now, things are happening which they would be prepared for. And when we went through the flood in Chennai, India, when the city was underwater for a day and a half, and then the electricity and everything went out, and there was just it was a week's worth of, there was just nothing. Like there was barely anything in stores, and everything stopped. My kids did amazing. In fact, my neighbors pointed out how prepared my kids were, because they had been trained for this kind of thing in various ways, living on a farm and some of the other things. But my kids don't appreciate it. And part of that thing is, I was sitting in like a doctor's office, and I read this article, and it was talking about how Levi's jeans company went bankrupt. This is probably like 15 years ago. And when I was a kid, every kid wore Levi's jeans, like every kid in my school. And if you wore anything but Levi's jeans, you were, high school, you were like, it was some kind of faux pas, right? And I was wondering, I'm like, how could that company that was so popular, Levi's jeans were the standard. And then I was reading the article, and it said, because kids looked at it like it was their parents' jeans. So I'm in my 30s, or whatever I was, late 30s, and I realized, American kids reject whatever their parents are. They think of it, although that's my parents' generation, because Americans kids want to move away from and disavow whatever their parents stand for or are into. Even, good families, like it just happens. So really it doesn't matter. Like I could have done a better job, but I went into this situation of parenting, wanting to do the things my parents didn't do, right? We all do that. Like we see holes in our parents' parenting, and you want to give to your kids what they didn't get. And, my kids, by the time two of them were moved out, one of them committed suicide, which was a whole thing. Like fucking, that was a whole thing. Like Jesus. I mean, that's just a whole nother thing, right? But the two kids that were here were both more, into the vaccine, which was a whole thing. And, my wife was very, was trying to talk to them about it. And I was like, just don't bother. Like it's just, they just were closing their ears to it. We tried to talk to them about the food system and polyunsaturated fats, and we were on vacation. We played a video for them, and you could just tell they were tuning it out, and they want to make up their own opposite. They're more prone to believe whatever you don't believe, right? You see this all the time. Kids reject their parents' dogma, and it's just the way it is. And it happens. It's not so much in other countries, obviously. It's a big thing in America. It's a part of the American culture, which is being spread out throughout the world. And so there's nothing you can really do about that. Sometimes you have kids that really listen to you, even as teenagers. They really, they respect your opinion. But that's a rarity. And, that doesn't happen because of, it's more because of the kid than it is because of anything you do or don't do, right? Anything you do that's like wrong or like a flaw in any of your issues, like they're going to totally pick up on that. But they're not going to see the good part. They don't see it. They're not grateful for all the things you do, all the meals you cook, all these things. Like you've just lost that investment, right? And so, it sucks for me and everybody else that's gone through that, but they don't appreciate all the things that you do. Even when they become parents themselves and they start doing those things, and they, maybe they would realize that, somebody changed their diapers for 3 fucking years. I changed diapers for 10 years. Where's my shekels? Where's my shekels for that? And not to mention all the meals I made, right? We went out for like a birthday dinner for me, and I didn't really want to do it. And it was the last one we did. And my son didn't even know it was my birthday. It was a birthday dinner. And halfway through it, they brought up this story where I had made a salad and I hadn't properly cut the salad, like the lettuce. I used like a spring mix, and so or something like it wasn't cut properly. And I was like, you guys, we tried to get you guys to cook one meal a week. My son and my daughter, and the meal sucked, and I tried to help them the most I could, but they just were resistant. But they never appreciated the meal. And this is supposed to be my birthday dinner, and he's complaining about a salad I made 2 fucking years ago, right? So I mean, I was like, yeah, this is not fun for me. Let's not do this anymore. Like whatever it is, right? Like they didn't want to celebrate my birthday. It wasn't come from some sense of gratitude and appreciation for like all that I've done for them as a dad, right? Like not that I'm complaining or feel like a victim, but that it just wasn't there, right? So why pretend like it's there when it's not? And if they don't have gratitude for, a parent deserves gratitude. Anybody who does just the standard basic shit. I mean, I'm grateful to my parents for feeding me and giving me a place to live or whatever. But other than that, they've kind of failed on most of the other things. And there was some, damage that was done just because my mom was a hypochondriac and my dad was a loser and incompetent. They were incompetent people. So, like, I had to rise above that and fix that shit, right? Because, whatever. But I don't feel resentment or whatever it is for them. I feel some gratitude for their limited, the good things that they did. But, the reality is there should be some gratitude that the parents just don't go and abandon you somewhere because you're a fucking whiny, entitled piece of shit, right? Like there should be some, sense of how bad you sucked as a kid, and depending on what a kid you were, right? Because, but most American kids are whiny brats and they're shitty and they're, and the ones that aren't, like it's a miracle because, the system pulls for that kind of shit, especially this kid's growing up with the internet and they're being indoctrinated and they're being told their parents suck and, all the stuff that they're being fed by the internet. Wow, this is 40 minutes long. So, I didn't realize this was, this is probably one of those things where people think I'm rambling about. But either way, the kids that are in America, there's nothing you can do. Like you need to prepare them. But, when you're a young parent and you're really into being a parent, right? Like your first kids and, your first kid and, all these things, you're learning on the job. You don't have unless you had really great parents, you have limited knowledge and you're stressed out. Maybe you're, probably stressed out financially and you're stressed out at work and your marriage is suffering because there's a transition between you dating and being just there for each other. Now you have this other person, this kid. And so, all those things are, add to a level of stress and you don't know what you're doing and you're more amped up, right? And so, and you're trying to compensate for the lack of good parenting that you received, right? So this is like how it goes. And then, there's all the societal factors. And so, there's just nothing you can do. But more often than not, your kids are going to rebel against what you're into. And if you try to reverse psychology them, they won't do it, right? So like, it's just no matter what you do, you're pretty much screwed. So there's no reason to feel bad. We should all, look at our performances and see where we could do better. We can always reevaluate, say, if I had to do this again, I would have done this. But from my own experience, I can say, no matter what you do, it's probably going to turn out exactly the same way. Like it's just like some of these things are samskaric based, a lot of it. These kids come in with a samskaric pattern. They come in with their own stuff. And, you're going to be a different parent for each one of your kids. Each one of your kids is going to see you differently. And, it's because they have their own, their own idea, they're creating their, basically their experience with their dads and their moms based in what they need as a person as they develop into an adult, based in these samskaric patterns that they bring in from past life, right? If a kid's going to be an alcoholic, then they're going to have an experience that's going to lead them to alcoholism, right? They're going to, if they're going to be a gambling addict or whatever it is, like they're just going to have this experience. And you're going to see it with each one of your kids. Like they have completely different experiences in the family. And you're gonna some of it you're gonna be like, well, they're placed different, and one's gonna be the scapegoat, one's gonna be the, whatever it is. They're all gonna generate different parents, different experiences in the family, and then they're gonna go out and they're gonna blame it all on you. So kids, yay. Anyways, Tuesdays, am I right? All right, let's wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. As Paul Romano definitely points to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.